And welcome to my new Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. The original. This is an iconic title that I have a ton of history with because this was the first video game I ever played, around the same time as Duck Hunt. To put things in perspective, my family had an NES growing up, well at least when I came around. And thus, I played a ton, and I mean a ton of this game, and Duck Hunt. I used to be really bad at Duck Hunt, because I have no sense of aim. And I still am really bad at light gun games. Fun fact. Got to play one last year, actually. 2016 PAX West. I got to play a little bit of, I think, what was the name of it? Like, Hogan's Alley? I was terrible at it, but that's not the point of this Let's Play. This is a Mario game, not a Let's Play of a bunch of light gun games. Slight tangent aside, yes, I played a lot of this and a few other NES games. My family had 2 and 3 as well. Duck Hunt, and that was about it, as far as I remember. I always tended to gravitate towards this and 3, because those are still my favorites to this day of the original NES branch. It's kind of like with Final Fantasy for me. Why did that take out 2 Goombas? I don't know. But it's kind of like Final Fantasy for me, where I tend to break down the games based on platform, which is a little bit weird, I know, but it's kind of how I like to do it because it's hard to compare a lot of these games. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, which is better, 3 or World? Honestly, they're both great games, but also kind of different from each other, so I don't really readily compare the two. I like 3 better, but that's also because I grew up with it. If I played World and 3 back to back, who knows? By the way, there's a warp zone back there. You can actually see the cavern where it actually is. I had managed to scroll the screen far enough, so that's cool, I guess. That's one too, your first underground level. Honestly, you got a lot of really good music in this game. But the ground theme is actually... Oh, we got fireworks. If you end a level with a certain digit on the timer, you actually get fireworks, which is a nice little bonus. You get extra points, and I think in later games you get like items for it, but not in this one, because there's no item storage. Super Mario Bros. Is one of those games that I can play over and over again. In fact, this is actually, I think, getting into double digits for attempts at recording this game. I've had a heck of a time recording this game. My first attempt was on the Game Boy Color, through the Game Boy Player. I had an abysmal time of World 8 because of screen crunch, as some refer to it, which is basically when you take a game and then cut off part of the field of view, and then you have a game where you cannot see all of what you were originally intended to see, which tends to be really bad with Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Specifically Game Boy Color, because that was like this weird widescreen display and they didn't want to have like black bars, so they just chopped top and bottoms off of the screen. So Yoshi's Island suffers from that, I know. Sonic Genesis doesn't even need to be mentioned, but it's kind of a nice idea to port a bunch of games to handhelds. It's just, do you have the technology? And this is really a good idea. But yeah, I tried the Game Boy Color version. Did not work out because I just botched World 8. It took literally about 45 minutes to actually finish World 8, which was ridiculous. I don't know why I was having such a bad run that day. So, fast forward a few years. And then I got an NES Classic, and I still need to finish Ninja Gaiden, speaking of the NES Classic, but that's not the point. Also Castlevania, but again, not the point. The point is, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna record Super Mario Bros., and guess what happens? Massive footage problems. My commentary distinct really badly from the actual capture, which for some reason is a thing that happens not only with the NES Classic, but also the Switch, and I'm not sure why. because other people can record off the Switch no problem. It could be because I'm using a separate recording app from the capture app instead of using the built-in audio capture. That just seems really risky because I've heard so many bad things about the Elgato game capture's built-in audio recording having desync problems. So it sounds like it will desync either way if you ask me. So I gave it about 3 or 4 attempts, and some of those were finished attempts. I actually finished the game in its entirety before realizing that all the footage was unusable, so that was fun. Got our first underwater level, and actually this is my favorite song in the game. I really love the water theme, and actually it's just a musical thing in general. I really like Trimiter, as it's called, which is basically a rhythm in sets of 3. If you try to explain, if you say triminer, no one knows what you're talking about. If you say waltz, everyone knows what you're talking about. So yeah, it's basically the type of meter or rhythm used in waltzes. So I like the sound of waltzes for some reason, I'm not sure why, but triminer is always one of those things that just really fascinates me in terms of music. Now we're back to a standard, 4-beat or 2-beat rhythm, depending on who you ask. Some say diminutor, some say whatever 4 would be. But anyway, as I was saying, so then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna record All Stars because this is too much work. Except I keep having bad runs. So, I mean, I'm not having any recording problems, but I'm just playing badly. So this is my 4th or 5th attempt of the All Stars version, if you have to know. Yeah, I'm not doing very good, and these attempts have been over a period of months. First attempt was actually, I think, during Vesperia sometime. I was like, you know what, I want to play All-Stars, just in case. Because again, I was bouncing around ideas for like backup stuff to do because I was afraid of Secret Mission 17. That was actually a good staircase. I wish I could do that in NES Remix. That level's in NES Remix as an auto runner. It is really difficult to get the Rainbow 3-star because you have to get a perfect staircase jump at the end, which is really hard when you're automatically running. So yes, All-Stars is basically the same game with slightly tweaked physics. It feels a little bit more like 2 and 3 to me than 1, which is a good thing. My biggest problem with All-Stars 1 is they changed the physics for bouncing off of blocks. And it doesn't really come into play until World 4 in my opinion. But a couple of things in World 4 are kinda sucky. By the way, if you get a fire kill, as they say on Bowser, you actually find out it's not really Bowser. So, yeah, all of his minions are posing as him in these early castles. By the way, Butter Princess is in another castle. So, that's like your first major video game meme, if you ask me. I'm trying to think. I feel like the line, all you base belong to us, came a little bit later, but I might be wrong on that. And of course, the very next year you'll get It's Dangerous to Go Alone, Take This, and also, I feel like one of the moblins in Zelda 1 has something really iconic to say, but I don't remember what. By the way, those are Hammer Bros, they suck. That's all I'm gonna say about them for now. We won't see why they suck until World 5. Because they get really jerkish with their placements, basically. To the point where I just basically don't want to deal with them. And if I don't have fire by then, by the way, you can do an infinite 1-up trick. I botched it. I don't need 1-ups, I don't think. Typically, I mean, considering I've had to record this part quite a few times, I've actually finished the game a lot without needing a continue, so pretty good. If I have a deathless run, it'll be my first. I've never done a deathless run of this game because I always screw up on World 8-1 or 8-2. I used to always mess up on 8-3, but I actually figured out the strat for 8-3, and I actually don't have any problems with that anymore. By the way, you actually can't go back, I should probably note that. So when you're actually trying to get on upper levels like where Hammer Bros are, you gotta be really careful about that. You gotta be careful not to accidentally mess up and like off screen something really important, which can happen. Some items or blocks on kind of the left side of a structure, so you have to be really careful not to off screen like a fire flower or something, so keep that in mind. First time I played this game was probably when I was like 3 or 4. By the way, something that always baffled me is 6-3 uses similar aesthetics, but is also super messed up on the NES version, and I never got why. The graphics all messed up. It's like a white background, and not white background, black background, but like all the blocks and stuff are all gray, which is the only level that happens in, which is really weird. I'm not sure what causes that. By the way, if you time this right, you can actually jump over the flagpole, but because you can off-screen things, if you go too far, you can't actually beat the level, and you have to wait until the time runs out. This is one of those things where it's like, that's cool, let's make it a feature, because in Lost Levels, which is the sequel to this, they actually make it so you can do that on purpose in order to get certain warp zones, so that's cool. But in this game, I feel like jumping the flagpole was completely unintentional. That's just me speculating. I'm obviously not in the know about what was going through the minds of the developers. But yeah, if I had to guess, that was not intended in this game, and then they thought, you know what, actually we should totally make that a feature. I think the copy flower, not the copy flower, the double cherry in 3D World also was like a bug that they turned into a feature, but I'm not 100% sure. My memory is a little bit foggy on development during 3D World, obviously, because that's a ways in the future. 4-1. This level's easy on NES, not so much on SNES, because there are a couple piranha plants that are really easy to jump on the SNES version that are actually really hard to jump. Not the other way around. Like some of these enemies, the way the piranha plants hitboxes are in the NES, sometimes you can actually kind of clip the top of them and live. So speedrunners often exploit that, so if you're wondering, well, how does that work? Yeah, it's just their graphics are not quite what they look like they should be. So in this version, I think they don't have that problem, so you have to be a lot more careful with jumps, and thus the speedrun it takes a lot longer because you actually have to wait for a couple piranha plants, I think. Anyway, back to my story. I think I started playing this game, yeah, when I was like 4, I want to say. The first game I played it a lot. Yeah, see, that's the place where like the going through the block a little bit before falling down can actually mess you up, because you can actually okay, I'm gonna jump like that. See, there, right there, it kills your momentum by going through the top of the block a little bit. And there's a part in this level where that can really mess you up, actually. By the way, there's a warp zone here. It's a little bit harder as Super Mario or Fire Mario, but if you hit this block, there's a vine that will take you to a warp zone, to World 8. Now, one of the failed runs was because I accidentally went through the warp zone to World 5, which is at the very end of this level, so I'm going to try not to do that this time, because I don't want to warp to World 5, I want to show all the levels. I mean, that's only a 2-level warp, mind you, but still. But yeah, like, this would be a lot easier on NES than SNES, because you could bounce off of one of the brick blocks and bounce onto one of the other enemies, like one of the Koopas, but in this version, yeah, I wouldn't quite count on that. This jump is also one of those that's scarier, because I've hit the tip of that block, the corner of the block, and had it kill my momentum to the point where I just fall straight into the pit, so yeah. That's why I'm playing it really safe. On NES, I wouldn't have to play it this safe, because of the physics. It's kind of cool, but also frustrating, as someone who's been playing this game on multiple versions for like 18 years, effectively. So, this is a unique level. aesthetic that's only seen in this world, and also the warp zone to World 8. By the way, if you go along the top path, again, just to reiterate, it takes you to World 5. So, again, not a big warp, but hey, better than nothing if you really have to warp for whatever reason. This is actually a cool level though, so why would you want to skip it? I don't know. Almost at the end actually. This is a short game, all things considered. Also, I love how the top of the castle is basically just a smaller castle layered on top of a base, effectively. Little thing I noticed. 4-4 is a unique level. It is a maze. So that little chime tells you went the right way. So we will continue trying to go the right way. To clarify, the chime wasn't in the original NES version. It was added for All-Stars, and also included, that was a spiny that the Lactus throw, by the way. It was later included in future versions, like Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for Game Boy Color. Except a lot more 8-bit in that game, less 16-bit. And that's the first half of the game, so I think that's a good place to end off. So thank you for watching, and I hope you join me next time where we start World 5-1.